Hey, welcome to our client side chats. And today we have a very special guest with us, Rene, who is the EHS director for Western Milling. So, how are you doing, Rene? How's everything?
James, thank you for having me. Everything's been going well.
Good deal. Hey, I have to tell you, it's been a pleasure to watch your growth into the safety profession. You've really developed into quite the professional. I mean, now to be the safety director, that's an awesome thing, man. Nice job. Congratulations on that. But this afternoon, why don't we talk a little bit about COVID? And that seems to be the current situation with everybody right now. How has COVID impacted your business, your EHS processes?
Yeah, James, hey, thank you. Appreciate that. And talking about COVID, I mean, it is the hot topic right now. It is, taking precedent just about everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like many of the local organizations, we really started focusing on COVID end of February, early March, when we started seeing more and more clusters here on the West Coast. Right? Originally, like many, we had thought that this was an issue that was going to be overseas and could possibly be contained over there and may never hit our shores. But sadly, we found that we were also going to be impacted by COVID. So in the beginning of March, we had a business continuity meeting. And every year they bring up a scenario, something to the effect of, if this were to happen, how would we continue business operations? And it's usually revolves around fire, some type of structural integrity issue, flood, that sort of thing. Well, this year they kept the scenario kind of close to the vest. It didn't share a lot, so we didn't get a whole lot of time to prep. And so we all showed up to the meeting. And the scenario was, you have 2 employees who test positive for COVID. It's a Monday morning. They were here all last week. What do you do? And we all looked at each other and said, can that happen? Is that a real thing? And we didn't have an answer, right? So we said, give us a couple hours. We'll come back with something. And so we started digging a bit deeper, right? Reaching out to, Kauai Delta, reaching out to Tulare County Health and Human Services, and started drafting a program, right? And it just started with very simply, what is COVID, right? What is coronavirus, right? What is the impact, right? So we found out this is a cluster, right, of viruses. The impact is to the respiratory system, although we are seeing some changes, right? And we're seeing it impact people differently, right, depending on exposure. But we were able to put out a program by end of the week and really kind of have a guideline and a framework for how we were going to handle positive cases, positive near misses, how we were going to ask employees to self-quarantine. And the biggest hurdle initially was, how are we going to get our employees to work remotely, right? So we put a task force together, and I get to be on the team, but there's a lot of great folks on the team as well.
Good.
And we really started making those roles remote capable, setting them up to be at home. The idea was, hey, the fewer people that we have on site, the fewer that can contract the disease, A, bring it into the business, right? Or B, take it home to their families, right? So it was going to come down to sheltering in place, quarantining, right? And we were also trying to follow, California guidelines as well. So there's been a tremendous impact to the business.
So let me ask you this. You guys are an essential function that's been operating throughout this thing, because you're providing feed that supports the agricultural community. So as a result of that, did you have to take any steps with the employees who are there working? I think it's great that you did the distancing offsite, but what about here?
Absolutely, right. So our employees are essential workers, and they were deemed essential workers early on. Right. So they didn't miss any work. And, now we get to see, over 30 million Americans have applied for unemployment benefits, right? Unemployment insurance. And we see the impact economically. And we're blessed and fortunate that we get to continue to keep working. But yeah, absolutely, right. So there's that one piece where you send all of your employees home that are remote capable, but what do you do with your essential workers, right? So then you begin to implement your protocols, right? The first one was social and physical distancing, trying to keep a 6-foot barrier in between individuals, right? Which is tough, right? Because everybody starts at the same time, everybody clocks in at the same, time clock, everybody uses the same restrooms and shared spaces for breaks and lunches. And so it really forced us to get creative, right? How do we stagger shifts, start and stop times, right? How do we give employees the capability to clock in and clock out remotely from their smart devices, which, majority of them have, right? How do we implement the social and physical distancing protocols, right? And attain the buy-in, right? Because it comes down to buy-in. It is not something that you're going to be able to police at all hours of the day, right? And then lastly, what we started doing is implementing personal protective equipment in the workplace, right? And let me back up. There's one important piece that I didn't mention. Sure. Managing your call-ins and call-outs, right? So when employees are calling out, right, trying to get a better idea of what those symptoms look like, what their exposure may have been to other employees, and working aggressively to mitigate it on the front end, right? Now, a lot of those tests have come back negative, most of them. We've only had 2 positive tests this entire time. But trying to trace, right, what those footsteps look like and the interaction is a bit of a challenge, right? But all of it is in combination is absolutely necessary in order to mitigate the spread of the virus.
That's fantastic. And I know around here, we've seen some places have horrendous numbers of cases that come up, and really feel for them, definitely. So, but we now know this has evolved. We know this is now, we're moving towards opening and anything. Have things changed? What are your plans in looking at EHS as you reopen, as we get back to more interactive types of business?
Yeah, so Western Milling wants to be one of the last places to go back to business as usual, right? Quote unquote. Right. And that is our stance. That is our position today. We want to continue to encourage employees to work remotely. And we want to continue to protect employees and implement those social distancing protocols and COVID prevention protocols here in the workplace as well. So as we start to see the community reopen, right, and we understand the economical piece as well, right? We know that this has had a detrimental impact to California, right, and to many families individually. And so we're in alignment, right, with the state's recommendations. But at the same time, we have to continue to protect employees. And while we're going to see greater community spread, we anticipate that we can keep those to single isolated incidents. And we are going to work to avoid clusters here in the workplace by continuing to implement those protocols.
And that's through PPE, wearing of masks, those kinds of things, continuing the social distancing, looking at all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. All of those things will continue. As the social distancing protocols begin to soften a bit, right? Starting to see on social media, right, that people are congregating more, right? You've got the holidays. We've just had Easter. We had Mother's Day. We've got Memorial Day, and then we've got Father's Day coming up. Right. It is very difficult to continue to practice social distancing. And, at times it can get lonely and you feel isolated. And so the temptation is to go out and, participate in some of these events. And we know that increases the likelihood of exposure.
Right. But at least in your workplace, you've got the materials, the stuff, the education, the continual communication you're doing through managing and PPE, that everything should help to prevent anybody in the workplace from getting it. Absolutely. So that's good.
The goal is to prevent the clusters. We are not going to let up on any of the COVID mitigation protocols. We're going to continue to move forward. We're going to be aggressive in our approach.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. And on that note, thank you, Rene, for being here. Really appreciate it. We'll check in with you in the future, see how things are going. Hopefully we can talk about other safety challenges instead.
Very good. Thank you, James. It was a pleasure seeing you. We'll be meeting in person soon.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Rene.